Hello, everyone, and welcome to what I believe is episode 14, if I'm not mistaken, right, Cody, of the Stage Racing Podcast. We got a full agenda today. We had Motorsports Christmas this past weekend, so we're going to break it down. Stay tuned. All right, Cody, I'd ask how you're doing, but I think I know. So, been a little under the weather, but happy you're feeling good enough to hop on this afternoon. We're doing something special here, folks. We're taking advantage of Memorial Day. We're actually recording in the afternoon. So, how are you, buddy? Besides not feeling too well.
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good for the most part. For anyone out there listening, I've been pretty under the weather the last couple of days, but feeling good enough to knock out this podcast and enjoyed some really good racing yesterday. Enjoyed the day off today for Memorial Day, and um, so ready to knock this thing out and get to talking about everything motorsports.
Yeah, and it started out with the bank. I mean, how can we not talk about the Oscar Mayer Wiener 500 right off the bat Friday afternoon? I'm texting you and I'm like, dude, turn this on right now. This is fantastic. It started out instead of the national anthem, they had everyone stand up and put their hands on their stomach as they sang the Oscar Mayer Wiener song. That about had me in tears. The commentary was this is a family rated show, but it had some innuendos throughout it. Be the PG version of saying it.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, my goodness. So
Back in action.
back in action here. Sorry for the technical difficulties there. Yes, as I was saying, they started it off asking you to put your hand over your stomach, and as they played the Oscar Mayer, when they didn't play it, they had someone sing the Oscar Mayer Wiener song and finish it off with a good old blow on the Wiener whistle. And got that thing ready to go. And it was a fun show. It was entertaining. Of course, had a little WWE feel to it with some things kind of happening that probably were a little fabricated, but it made for fun nonetheless. Had a few steamed buns along the way. Some engines blew there. A little steam coming from the buns, and then finally a photo finish as the Slaw Dog takes the win by bun length. That was entertaining. I don't know what else you want to say about it, except that was entertaining.
What else is there to say? I mean, the European mind could never comprehend what we witnessed.
No, not at
Yeah,
all.
and no, I really enjoyed it. The commentary just put it over the top for me. I wish we could get them to commentate everything.
Oh
Um,
my gosh, was it? It may have been the guys who did the race Sunday,
it
but
was, yeah, it was.
they had way too much fun Friday
Hey,
doing that.
but you know what? That's what made it a great broadcast. Fox learned something. Have fun in the booth. But
Hey, you know what
anyway,
they did? They relished the moment Friday. That's what
they
they
did.
did.
That's what I texted you. I said these people are relishing the moment, and no, I just thought it was great for publicity. I texted you after it was over, and I said I want a hot dog, and you said it worked.
It
It worked.
worked. It worked. Hey, I had hot dogs. We have them Friday night or Saturday? No, we had them yesterday. We had hot dogs yesterday. Unfortunately, it wasn't Oscar Mayer. So sorry, Oscar Mayer. I mean, you made me get a hot dog. I just didn't get your brand. Sorry, apologize. But it was good nonetheless. What a way to start. I mean, it was the perfect way to start the greatest weekend in motorsports, if we're being honest. It took the edge off a little bit. The fans there on Friday who were there for Carb Day at the 500 were absolutely in it. I mean, just in it, man. Just hanging on the edge of their seats, enjoying it. It was just great. It was great. Um,
Yeah, I
it was
enjoyed
good.
it.
So we continued Friday night. We headed back to Charlotte where we got into the truck race, and I watched a little bit of it. I caught more of the end of it than I did anything else. But Corey Heim wins and just looks dominant again. We talked about this in the last pod. If something doesn't go wrong, he's usually going to win the race. It seems 9 times out of 10 at this point. So as dominant as he looks, I know it's a long season, but it's his championship to lose at this point, I believe.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And honestly, at this point, like I'm honestly, like, I didn't get to watch a lot of it on Friday just from not feeling well and just didn't really wasn't up doing much. Um, but I just, I think now that you're kind of halfway through the season, and like I said, like you said, the championship's his to lose. I'm just excited to see how good that guy's going to run for the rest of the year. I think he's making that, you know, that level really exciting. Not that the other guys don't usually make it exciting, but he's just, he's really putting on a show about every week, and it's really fun to watch.
We've texted about this. Corey Haim, 2311 driver. 2311 only has 3 cars, and really that's the max you can have as a charter team now, which who knows, the 2311 will even be chartered next year when this comes around, depending on that lawsuit. But Denny and Michael Jordan got a decision to make. They moved Riley Herbst into the 35 this year, and they at the beginning of the season, they talked about how much he had surprised them, how well they thought he was doing, how much of that was PR versus, now, for his rookie year, he's doing okay, I think. But, Corey Haim, God, he looks solid, and they talk about how similar the trucks drive to the new next-gen Cup cars now, that you almost don't need that Xfinity experience as much anymore. They got a decision to make at the end of the year.
Yeah, when someone's as good as he's, put on paper, it wasn't that long ago. It was a week ago or 2 weeks ago that he had the highest finish for the 2311 in the race at
it was Kansas. It was 2 weeks
Kansas.
ago.
Yep. Yeah, Kansas. Yeah. So in a Cup car. So.
Yeah.
The proof's kind of in the pudding, and I don't want to, put the cart before the horse, so to speak. But the dude's electric. He's pretty good. And
and I don't want to take anything away from Riley Herbst. I don't think he's run that bad this year. He's hasn't been on the same level as Bubba and Tyler, nor would you really expect him to. But then again, it's like, has he done a good enough job that you wouldn't want to give Haim his opportunity? I don't know. Tough decision. Glad I'm not making it.
You both.
Someone's feelings going to get hurt on that. That's for sure. Well, let's move it on to Saturday. So, old Willie B put on a show for the Xfinity race Saturday. Didn't get to watch a whole lot of that. I listened to it on the app. I was outside doing some yard work. And so listened to a little bit of the first two stages on the app, and he just absolutely dominated. Came back inside and watched the third stage, and he had that penalty, and it looked like Allgaier was going to win this thing. And then the good old Xfinity Series did what the Xfinity Series does best, and everyone started wrecking with about 50 to go. And Byron fights all the way back and wins, and really had the best car all day, for being honest. I know we were texting him. I'm assuming you got to catch at least the ending of it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, he put a whipping on them boys. And I was watching it on and off beforehand, before you had texted me. That dude was just putting on a clinic. It wasn't even fair. And you're going to put Kyle Larson or William Byron in that car. It's just going to go. And,
yeah.
I think now we've, seen a couple Cup guys kind of go down the Xfinity recently. And, it's been really fun to watch. And I think those guys have sort of started to take notice. And I'm hoping that they continue to take notice, and but yeah, if it wasn't for that penalty, even he still won the race, but if it wasn't for that penalty, it'd have been a snooze fest, and
it would have. Yep.
So but yeah, he's in a different class.
And what stinks is I thought Allgaier ran really well. He just didn't. I don't know, man. Junior, his car just didn't quite have what Willie B had. Maybe Willie B. Willie B's talented, so he was able to find a little more probably than what Allgaier could out of his.
He was on older tires too than William Byron at the end of the race too. So I don't think it had quite as much to do with it, because by the the way that.
Well, even in the second stage, they were just they were 1 and 2 basically the whole race, and Allgaier was giving everything he could. He just couldn't get to him. He just couldn't do it. Well, that'll wrap up stage one there, and again, what was just an absolutely fun weekend. Let's switch it to yesterday. Yesterday, Sunday, that's the greatest day in motorsports. Unfortunately, I didn't get to watch Monaco, nor you and I aren't the biggest F1 guys, although I respect the Monaco Grand Prix. But even one of our friends, shout out Brandon, who is an F1 guy, talks about just how much Monaco is just missing. Something that's just so narrow for as big as those cars are. The passing's almost non-existent. It's a strategy qualifying race is what it is. And unfortunately, next year it's coming off the calendar. It won't be part of the triple header for the day anymore, which kind of sucks, for being honest. Even though the race isn't that great, it's still cool to just have some form of racing on all day long. So I don't know. Did you get to watch any of it? I didn't get to watch. I was at church and I missed it. Yeah.
No, I didn't.
Tell you what I did do, though. Got back in church in time to watch the Indy 500 from start to finish. And before we get into it, I'm going to kind of skip ahead, but then come back. Kyle Larson's cursed that poor race, man. I swear he is. All morning, I'm looking on X. It's like, hey, weather looks good. It's cloudy, similar to what it was in Charlotte, but we should be good. literally as those guys are doing introductions, rain pops up on the radar out of nowhere. And luckily, it wasn't crazy rain that completely washed it out, but it delayed the start, which he was running a very tight window to begin with. I hadn't seen how tight the window was until they started talking about it, and I sit there and wonder why the heck they decided to do this. I mean, it was 40-minute window, a 40-minute window. If the race went, green, went like a normal race, he had 40 minutes from the end to when he needed to leave. And that rain delay start took 35-ish of it. And then the race couldn't even start when it wanted to because you had a car spin out in the pace lap. So I swear, man, I don't know. Is it me or is the 500 starting later than it normally did? Like, I always remember that thing starting at like 12:15, 12:30, and it didn't start to like 1 or 1:30.
I remember growing up, it used to start like at noon. Like all the pre stuff started at noon, and they were green by like 12:30.
Yeah.
Like,
so it seems later.
Yeah, because it was never an issue back in the day for like Kurt Busch or Tony Stewart to make it. So I mean,
Robbie Gordon too. Don't forget old Robbie.
Old Robbie Gordon, so,
the forgotten man in all of this.
The lesser of the Gordons.
Yeah. Well, anyways, it was a good race. I don't know if you watched it. I watched from start to finish. Actually, great race, chaotic race. I mean, just stuff happening left and right. And it started right off the get-go with one of the Penske cars crashing out under the pace laps. Just, I don't know. He's just trying too much. Tire pressure's too low, whatever it was. Maybe it was slick spot in the race, but he hits the wall. Didn't even complete a lap in the 500, and he's done. Nope. But you saw some crazy stuff. I mean, luckily everyone was okay, but we saw crazy pit road mishaps, gas man catching on fire. You had another crew member just getting absolutely wiped out by his driver. You had another guy coming into pits spinning out because he locked brakes up.
Had no brakes.
Had no brakes. No, you're exactly right. Yep, had no brakes. It was wild, man. It was crazy.
I never seen anything like it. I was like, what? How many times is somebody gonna get hurt on pit road? And just someone reckon under pace laps. It baffles me. It reminds me of the first F1 race of the season. That was like one of the rookies. He just ate it. It was raining. It was wet. He just ate it. And it was like, holy crap! Like, this guy hadn't even got to start his first race, and it's just like, golly, man, like, what are y'all doing?
Yeah, look, I know it. Your nerves are already high as it is. Then they had to sit in the car for 30, 45 minutes. Each person's going to take those things differently. Every driver's different. To me, it probably amped him up just a little bit too much, just not being able to get in to go. There's so much that goes around that race that's different than anything else. It was crazy. But eventually won by Alex Palou in what I thought was a really good race there toward the end. He took advantage of Ericsson's mistake going into one. Ericsson lifted like crazy going into one for whatever reason, and Alex went right by him. I think the lap cars there at the end kind of kept us from having what I think could have been a really, really good finish with there. But what I texted you during it, now there was some passing. Don't get it twisted. There was some passing, but it's not quite what it used to be in IndyCar. I mean, I texted you. I'm like, man, we're looking at the three biggest motorsports organizations in F1, in Indy, and NASCAR, and passing is a struggle at their top of the line in those organizations, in all three right now, and it just makes it hard to watch.
I mean, that's the whole point of racing, right? And we ain't really getting none of it anywhere. And
yeah,
I think all fan bases, when you go on social media, you look at the F1 fans, you look at Indy fans, and NASCAR fans, of course. I mean, they're all clamoring for different packages, different things they want to see to be more competitive. And so, I mean, there was some passing yesterday, but like you said, not as much as it used to be. Not as many lead changes as we've come to know. Now, I don't know if a lot of those accidents came to, kind of hinder that, and people were a little more cautious, and I don't know. Maybe it's a later start. Like we talked about that too.
Yeah, the weather too. It was cloudy, cold. Yeah.
So, I'm sure there's probably a couple things that could have made a difference. But when I watched it, it really, if you watch it all, whether it's F1, Indy, or NASCAR, it's the restarts. Mm-hmm. That's what's great about them. but after that, it's nothing. It's
Hmm.
just like, okay, follow the leader.
I tell you, the problem is, I feel like on all three, now F1 gets to do a little bit more with cars than I think Indy and NASCAR does from an engineering standpoint, but they're too similar, man. They're just too much the same. And these organizations want parity. I get it. Parity sells tickets. Parity gets new fans involved. But gosh, man, when you just put them too much the same, it's just anyways, we can get to that. But we'll say this: Indy, just a couple hours ago, it was announced that runner-up Marcus Ericsson was DQ'd. So him making that mistake going into one helped Indy avoid a major PR issue today. That would have been wild. It's also wild to me that they wait until the day after to break those cars down. Either that or they start and it's just a longer process. I don't know. I'm not that familiar with Indy, but I'm like, it's the day after and we're announcing that he's disqualified. Y'all didn't find this yesterday? What's up with that?
Yeah, who knows? Maybe they had to do double, triple checks. Maybe who knows? I mean,
It could be. And speaking of disqualifications, I think another thing that actually saved that race yesterday to being as good as it was is that they caught those Penske cars and the issues that the Penske. I can't go into the whole subsistence. Basically, there was part of the car that was supposed to have a little bit of spacing. Penske had actually put that together. From an aero standpoint, you could have a huge advantage with that. So these two Penske cars who have been dominant in practice and qualifying, everything leading up to it were disqualified, and so I think that may have helped the race yesterday because those guys weren't able to get up in the front and just completely dominate from start to finish. But yeah, so I think this is the funniest is while the 500 is going on yesterday, I'm scrolling through my phone, I'm looking on X, and these IndyCar fans are not much of a fan of Fox. And all we're doing is text each other. So welcome, welcome
first
to
time.
Yeah, first time.
First meeting with the rope and the news. First time.
First time. Exactly. I mean, gosh, now there were some things that I thought Fox did better in Indy than they had done in NASCAR all year. But even then, it was crazy to me. Like in the pre-race, I don't know how much of the pre-race you watched. You know, they had Danica, they had Tony, which both of those have done stuff with Indy, but you probably associate both of them more toward NASCAR. They brought Jeff Gordon onto the set to talk about Larson. To me, even the pre-race was more, if not, well, maybe not more, almost even with NASCAR figures as it was Indy figures. And I'm like, I get y'all trying to bridge that gap because the 500 is going to bring over way more motorsports fans than it ever does. But man, I like the sport a little bit. It's kind of how I felt. And that's from a NASCAR guy.
Yeah, no, I mean, I feel like Fox just drops the ball with everything. Sports now, realistically, I mean, it's not even as good if we want to talk about, NFL and stuff like that. So, which I don't understand why, because back in like the mid 2010s to early 2020s, they threw all the money at it and everything, and to try to battle with ESPN.
It was great.
I don't know what's happened. So anyway, but
ESPN's fell off too. So,
oh well, yeah, we
that's
digress.
a whole nother story.
That's a whole different podcast for everybody out there. But no, I mean, it's Fox. Like I said, first time. Like it is what it is. They don't. I don't ever feel like there's any. They don't make it feel like it's important, and like they actually care that they're broadcasting these live.
I'll give them this. I think it's from a producer standpoint is that issue. I agree with it because the announcers yesterday were way better than what we've got. And no offense to Mike Joy and all them, but the announcers, and I've noticed this in F1, and I felt like Prime, and we'll talk about that later, did a good job with it. And we know NBC does it. They do a good job of bringing that excitement. Like what you hear when you listen to MRN or PRN, even though we agree that PRN is not on a level MRN is on, but they just do a good job of keeping you in, but the producers just take it away. I mean, Cody, yes, it was a caution on the last lap. They didn't even show the winner cross the finish line yesterday in the 500, man. I saw that tweet and I was like, no way. And then they show it. I went back and saw it. I was like, you got to be kidding me. They really didn't. Right as he's about to cross the line, it's under caution. They flip to the car that wrecked. You can't wait 2 more seconds and show him he ain't going nowhere.
Hell, we can't get that. We can't get that in NASCAR for Fox. We can't see the car wreck. So which one? They're like, oh, let's go show the car wreck. No, we want to see the man finish. So like they can't figure out their butt from a hole in the wall right now. It's darned if they do and darned if they don't because
it really
nobody know what they're doing. It's like that scene from Ricky Bobby's, his hands go. I'm not sure what to do with my hands right now. The
Not
production
sure.
crew doesn't know. The
Not
production
sure
crew
what to do
doesn't
with
know
these
what to do
hundreds of
with their
cameras
hands.
I have right
No,
now.
nope, nope.
I mean, that was just the tip of the iceberg. Really, that was ice on the cake, actually, is what I should say, because the score tracker had major issues throughout the day. I mean, it's like 3 or 4 seconds between the leader and the score tracker's changing leaders. I'm like, what? Wait a second, what? Like, it's just. Anyways, enough with Fox. We've done enough of that this year, and we're done with them until next year. So we're moving on. I'm gonna leave it. We're gonna end Fox right there. Right?
Yep.
We're gonna make
Yep.
a promise to try to end Fox right there, right then and
Yeah,
there. We're done with that.
I'm done. I'm done.
Yeah.
After last night, I'm good. I'm good.
Yep.
We'll get to
Well,
that later.
speaking of Larson, let's bring back to the NASCAR side of things. Larson, of course, was going for the double yesterday. He spins out. There were, I don't know, a few hundred laps left or something like that. It was a rookie mistake on his end. He downshifted going into that. Just got really too aggressive, and he didn't need to. But it probably saved him, if we're being honest, because he would not have made it to the end of that race. He would have had to get out to get to Charlotte, and it's unfortunate. And again, we talked earlier about that tight window. With the timing changing with this race down that tight window, and I think he alluded to it a little bit last night, but I think he should be done with the double. What do you think? He gave it a valiant effort.
I think he should be done with it. Do I think he's done with it? I think he probably tries to give it a third go next year. But my opinion, I just don't think he should. I think unless Indy comes out and says, "Hey, we're gonna, bump up the time for the 500," sure. But
I don't think they will there. With Fox
I don't
having
think
it,
they
I
will
think
either.
Fox likes the window where it's at.
They do. So,
and I will say it wasn't really out there much with Pockerson and even Gluck being in Indy. They weren't covering NASCAR last night, but I saw Bianchi retweeted it. Someone did slip Larson a piece of paper because it was really loud, and he was at the infield care center and just asked, "Hey, with everything that went on, do you think you'll do this again?" And he alluded to that he probably won't, not anytime soon. I think he wants to run the 500 again, but I don't think he wants to do the double. Yeah. He said that window is way too tight. It's basically what he said the time window is just too tight. And, it's unfortunate. I would love to see him, run it one more time. He definitely didn't look as good this year in Indy as he did last year. But yeah, I mean, anyways. So yeah, I think we'll move on. Well, let's move on to the Cup race. I mean, just early thoughts, man. You've seen the notes. You know what we got planned to talk about later, but just your overall thoughts of the race last night. Do you think it was a good race?
Yeah, no, I did. I thought it was a great race. I thought, that it's probably been one of the best races of the season. Mm-hmm. I think it's kind of what we hoped Kansas would have been, at least. Not to say like we thought Kansas was going to be Kansas of, closest finish ever, but I think, just all in all, there was passing throughout. There was, strategy involved. The cars were fast. I mean, everything was just, there was some wrecks. There, like I said, I thought it was a good race, all in all, for the most part. Is it the best Coke 600 I've ever seen? No, but like I said, for this year, the way that it's kind of been down and out the last couple of weeks, I think this has probably been the highlight of the last 2 months.
Yeah, it was, like you said, it was a good race. There was some good strategy. I think if anything that hinders it is you had 4 really good cars. And Byron and Hamlin and Hocevar before he blew up, and then of course Chastain. I mean, the passing still wasn't as great as what we like to see, but you can't argue it too much, seeing that Chastain comes from literally last to first to win the darn thing, and it wasn't luck. He drove himself right on up there to do it. But yeah, I mean, it was good. I think there was still some arrow. We were texting during the race in our group chat, and I was like, these guys, these teams have figured out everything they can figure out. You've gotten everything you can get out of it, and just the arrow blocking now is still just a little too much. And it just took to me, what it took to really get around someone, especially when you got up to that top 5, was a mistake on whoever was in front of you. That's how you saw most of the passes. I mean, that's mainly how Hamlin got around Byron, vice versa. That's how Hocevar almost got up there. And eventually that's how Ross got up there, as Byron got a little bit loose and Ross got around him. And so, But yeah, I mean, it was good racing. I mean, that's what you've seen for years. The leader getting a little out of control and getting to go around it, but still the aero blocking to me, it's just still there too much, man. Still there too much. But let's get back on track here. Larson, speaking of Larson, going back to Mr. Double, he comes in there, starts on the front row, immediately goes to the lead, looking like the best car out there, and it just makes just another mistake. And I know he was pretty loose. He talked about he was pretty loose, but gets in the fence, bends the toe link a little bit, goes across the infield. You and I were texting, think he messed up his diffuser a little bit, and it hurt him later on. And we've talked about this, and I'll let you elaborate. As good as he is, man, he just seems to make little mistakes like this far too often.
Yeah, man. I mean, the dude's pushing the car to the freaking limits. Steve Letarte and Dale Jr. and them talked about it last night on the broadcast. So kudos to them. I mean, they're the experts. But he just everywhere that man goes, whether it's IndyCar, because I mean, it wasn't him wrecking in the Indy 500 during the race was not the first time he'd wrecked that week. He wrecked in qualifying, I think, and two, and so. The man pushes any car he drives to the absolute limits, and he's going to get out of it what he's supposed to. And I'll say this: I'll put the little stick in here for the Intimidator. For anyone that hasn't watched the first 2 episodes, needs to go watch it. But that's what they talk about Dale. In those 2 episodes about early in his career, and he pushed that car to its absolute limits. Blew motors left and right. I mean, Kyle Larson out here blowing motors, like we've talked about. It's kind of hard to blow these motors up, but everything else he's pushing to the limits. And I mean,
and I think what we forget is you talk about it is still pretty early in Larson's career. If we really step back and look at it, I mean, it's still pretty early in his career.
Yeah, and so I think he's trying to get out of every inch. He is. I mean, he's a highline driver too. I thought about this last night while I was watching the race. That man drives the highline. A lot of drivers try to do that now too in races, but he's always been that way, even back to when he drove for Chip Ganassi. And when you carry so much speed out of the highline like that, especially at a place like Charlotte, and if you're a little hard on that throttle coming out of there, that back end's going to shoot around.
Especially on 4, especially in turn 4.
Exactly.
You see it a lot there. Yep.
And so, that happened, that happened at Charlotte. And then what was the other race? Was it Darlington that he did that at? I think it was Darlington. It was the same thing. He come around 2, I think, and spun on the backstretch. And it's just, he just runs everything so hard, and that's okay. Like I want the guy to run.
I respect it.
Yeah, 100%. I'm not mad or criticizing the guy for it at all. I'd much rather you see you do that than just putty around there, and just whatever. But I think sometimes he needs to learn when to dial it back just a little bit.
And it was so early in the race. I mean, they were just coming. They were getting ready to do the first pit stops in the first stage.
Yeah.
I mean,
they weren't even halfway through the first stage yet, and the dude's just going through the middle of the infield, like, "Oh, hey, bye!" Like, right behind me, right here.
Yeah, I think it was emotion in that. I texted you, and I'm like, I might put a bet on him if I was you. Because we were talking about who to bet on. I was like, he's ticked off. I think his emotions got to him a little bit on that one. He was probably pushing way sooner than it was. But ultimately, that mistake got him caught up in the wreck later on because his track position was gone. It took them forever to get that car back. Now, it was starting to come back. I don't think it was good enough to win, but I think it was good enough to get back up there, maybe into the top 10. And he gets caught up in, I don't even remember who it was that wrecked, but he got caught up in it and just got absolutely nailed. Yeah, it was Suarez. Suarez pushed, who just Suarez? Was it Briscoe?
It was Briscoe was Suarez and Ryan Blaney. And
Suarez went into Blaney. Blaney went into Briscoe. No, sorry. Suarez went to Briscoe. Briscoe hit Blaney because he had nowhere to go. And then I think Blaney got Larson on the way down. So,
Yep.
Yeah, it was crazy. Well, speaking of Blaney, the Fords were pathetic last night. Just absolutely horrible. Now let's credit Keselowski and Priest both ended up having a pretty decent finish when it was all said and done. But God, they were awful last night. Should they panic after coming off of kind of a break like that? I mean,
so I don't know how early you tuned in. I think you watched all the 600 last night. Steve Letarte made a really good point last night, and I like I said, we'll get later to Amazon and this booth and everything later. But he made a really good point when he talked about, because they talked about some of the struggles early on with Joey. They talked, the Penske team and Josh Berry. Um, you know, wouldn't be surprised if everything was just buttoned up real tight, try to really just kind of go under the
Get through
radar,
it with the Penske
really just
issues
get
from the
through it with the
500.
Penske
Yeah.
issues, not really try to push anything. Because, you're talking about, because Steve Letarte said it. He said, the guys that got fired, you know, were thought to be lifetimers for Penske.
Yeah.
Basically had already been lifetimers and were thought to have been like nothing would have ever mattered. They would have never been fired. So, Steve Letarte was like, it's probably the teams really not pushing the envelope, really sticking to, you know, the what they're supposed to be sticking to for the cars and not really pushing the limits of them per se on the engineering side and making sure that no one's getting DQ'd, making sure no one's taking
Hmm.
advantage of anything. Because I mean,
They had enough
yeah,
bad PR throughout the week.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so my
Yeah.
thing is how do you think Roger Penske would take that if all of a sudden he fired his head of his I can't remember what Cedric Stad was, but I mean
He's
he's like
basically the VP of the organization.
VP,
Is basically
yeah,
how I
and
understand it. Yeah.
and fired them, and then all of a sudden for the Indy 500, and then say for example one of your cars got DQ'd from the Coke 600 on the Christmas weekend of racing. Yeah, no. So I really liked what he said about it. I mean, I'd have to agree with that 100%. I don't think they need to panic. I think they're going to be fine. Ryan Blaney needs to panic. I don't know what I mean, he's just bad luck written all over him.
He,
'Cause
we
they had
said in
started to
the,
figure something out.
yeah, we said in the last pod that we feel okay that he's going to win a race.
Um,
I'm not starting to feel that way anymore because
I
it
know
just
it's just
seems
in
like
one race, but he didn't run good. How did he run the All Star race
something's
again? Because I
happening
don't
every.
remember.
What's that?
How did he run the All Star race again? I really don't remember.
He was okay from what I mean. I don't remember him being a huge factor.
Yeah, I mean, so I just and the All Star races. I mean, it is what it is. Like it's not even that big of a thing. But if you really didn't show out there, and you could once again here at the Coke 600, where you know this is what he won a couple of years ago to eventually go win his championship and get on that
Mm-hmm.
run. And I mean, yeah, they started to claw their way back last night, but it just never he got in the accident. That was Suarez's fault, but it doesn't matter. I mean, you were in a bad situation. If you don't qualify bad, if you don't continuously run bad throughout the race, you're not in that position. And so,
Yeah.
Joey's clearly fine. I
But
mean, he's
gosh,
fine.
even they were off last night. I mean, I know it's a whole Penske thing. I get that. And to an extent, I do agree with that. But also, I don't think that ruling came down to like Wednesday or Thursday.
Mhm.
Enough late into the week that I'm like, I don't know. To me, I think they just swung and missed last night, honestly. I think Ford in general swung and missed. I don't know if it was necessarily a Penske thing because RFK was not good. Who else runs Ford? Haas. Factory team. Of course, that's just one car, but I mean, he hadn't really done much besides 500 this year. But it just, and thanks a lot, Ford. I do appreciate it because you absolutely ruined my fantasy last night because they've been really good at mile and a half. I mean, we were talking about it on the phone yesterday how good Barry had been in the mile and a half this year.
Yep.
And then they just laid a crap egg yesterday. Like, it was awful.
He managed to finish 14th last night, and I was
He
so shocked.
salvaged something. Yeah.
I mean, but that's what you got to do when you want to make the playoffs, and which he's going to because he won. But
Yeah, he's
I
locked,
mean,
but yeah. But no,
it's
I get what you're
I mean,
saying.
it's all those guys. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it was just really odd to me. Shout out to Brad Kay, man. That guy got a top five, and Ryan Priest I think finished 11th. So
Brad Cave
uh,
was he got that top five after getting the lucky dog at one point, and he was
he did.
not
And
good.
he talked about it though after the race. Yeah, he talked about. He said they thought they had a good car. He said they just kind of always found themselves in some predicaments that
Mm.
wound them up in the back of the field. He said, but he said it's probably the most speed they've had all year. And the car was really good. Wasn't a car good enough to win. And he said it may not even been good enough for the top five, but they managed to get there.
He'll take
And I
it.
mean, oh yeah, I mean that's his best finish. That's his first top 10 or five of the whole year. He's had five
Wow,
DNFs this year,
wow.
and so shout out to him for getting
I
that done. And
mean,
Ryan Priest again with a top 12 finish. I mean, the guy just continues to impress me. I hope they're able to. I expect to see a lot of things from him moving forward.
as long as he can see the choose cone, he's good to go.
you see the video where he walked out there and put it on the
Yes,
wall?
and I know that's probably been covered on every other pod. We didn't cover the All Star race, which we'll get just a little bit get to it. But I mean, yeah, I understand it. It was probably hard to see. All the drivers have said it was hard to see. They get it, but dude, you know where it's at. Come on, man. That's all right. But back to the 600. For the most of the race, man, that was like the most interesting top 10 we've had this year. I mean, you're seeing guys up there that we haven't seen run up there, and they were up there all night. They qualified up there. They basically held it. AJ Allmendinger. You were texting me. We're getting late in the race. He's like, look at the dinger. I was like, dude's been solid.
He was good in
He's
practice,
about to lock.
too.
If he keeps it up, he's getting in the playoffs on points. I mean, he's 100% getting in just on points. He might win a road course. Wouldn't surprise anybody. But dude has been solid, man. He's taken this opportunity that he finally got to come back to Cup. And he's making the most of it. He really is.
Yep.
You had Noah Gregson run up there last night, who I thought Noah looked pretty good. Also hilarious hearing Junior try to say his last name. I just want that on repeat over and over again.
Gregson, all night. I'm like, it's Gregson? But all right.
Yeah. Legacy Motorsports look good,
yeah, John
with the exception of their owner, who looked absolutely horrible. Jimmy, buddy, you're a legend.
Hang it
Enough's
up,
enough, man.
Hang it up, brother. Just go ahead and put a pin in it. 700. Keep it at that nice number, and let's just go ahead and call it what it is, baby. Just call it a day. Don't do another 500. Don't do another Coke 600. You don't have enough seat time in these cars. And he said it when they interviewed him after he wrecked. He was like, he said, yeah. He's like, he said, I guess I just made a rookie mistake in this car, or whatever. And I was like, yeah, it's because you ain't got enough seat time.
He's not in it. He's not in it. And he's not in the sim that much. He's got too much other stuff he's got to do. He's raising a family and he's owning a race team. Like, he's not in it that much. I'm with you. But John Hunter, John Hunter ran great. Eric Jones ran great.
He was up there all night.
You had a little bet on Eric Jones. You were hoping he could sneak up there and backdoor you some money. I'm trying to think who else was up there that was a little surprise. And, of course, Hocevar was –
Austin Dillon.
But, Austin Dillon, I should have put him in my lineup because he always finds himself up there in the 600. They talk about in the broadcast. They're like, we don't know what it is, but in the 600, he finds himself up there. He's won it before, but usually he's up there in the top 10. Yeah. He ran good. It was a really good, interesting top 10 last night.
Running good until he had some. Not that anybody doesn't expect Alex Bowman to run good right now, but he was running good until that happened. I know there's some people we're missing out.
That were just
the biggest. I think one of the biggest surprises was, of course, to me, was the Legacy Motorsports guys, and AJ Allmendinger. I think, and when Hocevar finally got up there, him actually staying up there for as long as he did until he blew up, I think that was probably the biggest surprise of the night for me.
And one thing I think they hit on a little bit in the broadcast, but not a whole lot, is just how good the Toyotas were last night. They have not been hitting on much. On the mile and a half, Reddick ran well. Denny should have had a top 2, if not winning car, which I'll talk about that here in a second because that really ticked me off as a Denny fan. Who else? I mean, the legacy cars are up there. Christopher Bell, which he always finds his way up there, ran well. So, it was just, a good night for Toyotas. Hopefully they can carry that over moving forward. So let's talk about the winner, Mr. Watermelon himself, Ross Chastain. And it's funny because I was just talking about him earlier this week, and something that a little something I have going on that I can't announce on here yet that I'm hoping you know what it is. But something that hopefully will come about and should know something here the next little bit. And as I find out some more, I'll share it here on the pod. But just a pretty cool little thing that might end up happening to not only myself, but to some different things here in the community. But it was talking about Ross Chastain a couple of days ago. Just a memory I had of him when he was back in the trucks. And I came and interacted with some of the kids of an organization I used to work with, and how awesome he was then. I'm not Ross's driving at times is annoying, but from a human being standpoint, he was locked in with that point. He didn't have to be there. And there were other drivers who were there that day who were literally there from a PR standpoint, and Ross wasn't. Ross was there to have fun. But anyways, I say all that to say shout out to Ross. Driving from the back to the front, literally had this craziest stat came through last night. One that I'm sure NASCAR is just going to shove down our throats when we talk about a year of cars that can't pass. But he is the first car to come from 40th and start back there, not on any penalties. I mean, I guess it was a penalty, but it wasn't. He crashed out. He never really put a qualifying lap in, so technically it wasn't a penalty, but technically it was. Anyways, wasn't sent to the rear, I guess. He literally started in 40th, come from 40th to first car since 1971 when the great Richard Petty did it. What a run by the Watermelon Man last night, man. Unreal. And
I'm gonna say this too. Richard Petty, if I'm not mistaken, when I read that, did it at Richmond.
He did it at Richmond.
A short track, which you could put cars a lap down, there. So maybe it is a little more impressive.
And even then, and another thing too, I know what you're alluding to. The other thing too is the difference in Richard's car versus a lot of the other ones he used to run against back then.
Yeah.
Nowadays, we just talk about how these are all the same.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
So,
yep.
Yeah, so I think, doing it on a mile and a half is really impressive to me. And of course, in these cars where we say you can't pass and it's all about strategy, they figured it out. They played it right. And,
Yeah, and having 600 miles to do it didn't hurt. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, if you go pick a race, we kept saying it all night in our group chat last night. Anytime anybody had an issue or a minimal issue, we're like, it's a long race. It's a long race. It's
long race.
That's and that's one great thing about one of the crown jewels in NASCAR is with it being so long is you can have a minimal mistake early on. Well, you should be able to if we can get these cars right. But anyway,
rebound. Yeah, but I mean that was impressive. I think what else has impressed me with Ross, even the last few weeks, is Trackhouse has not been very good this year. Mm-hmm. And he has gotten way more out of his car than he should have in just about every race this year. And so shout out to him. He's having a great year. Honestly, I think he's having driver of the year type year, if we're being honest. We'll see what he can do from here. Trackhouse, of course, now locked in the playoffs with Ross. Obviously, I think they're going to be throwing all their chips in a basket when Suarez goes to Mexico City. It'd be interesting to see if SVG ruins that party for Suarez, but that'll be interesting what goes on there. They've got a chance to throw a couple more in there now. We're getting to the summertime. These road courses are coming about. They might get another one in there, but they still need to find a little bit more speed. I think they've been missing so far. So shout out to Ross. Not a shout out to Hamlin's gas man issues that has cost him for another race this year. I don't know what's going on there. Something's going on. I mean, you hate to be calling for people's jobs, and it could just be, pure bad luck, which with Denny is part of the course. But they had the same issue in Talladega. They didn't get the whole second can in there. They didn't even get hardly any of it in there. And I remember watching this pit stop, and I'm like, they switched cans, and they go to put the second one in there. I'm like, that is a lot of gas firing out of that, recirculating back out when they just put the second can in there. I was like, something doesn't seem right. And then, of course, here we go. A couple of minutes later, they get on the radio and say that basically nothing of the second can went in there. They were 15 short. 15 short with a car good enough to win the race. Good enough to win the race. And, and so I don't even know what Denny finished, 18th or something like that, which is just, oh my gosh, man, just terrible. But, Byron continues to lead in the points. He's been impressive this year. He's been very consistent. If we were talking Winston Cup type points format, he'd be tough to beat with how good they've been this year. But for whatever reason, man, he just can't seem to finish these darn things off. It seemed to kind of be his thing, but I mean, he's racking up. He's got the second most playoff points, I think, second or third most. I know Larson has the most, and then Denny and Byron are right there neck and neck for second most playoff points. So he's in a good position as they head into the playoffs. Should probably have enough points to basically get to, if he keeps the way he's going, I think he'll probably have enough points to get to the round of eight as long as he just doesn't crap the bed in the first two rounds of playoffs. But that'll wrap up stage two. That was a lot in that stage. So we're 42 minutes into this thing. Let's bring it to a point. We'll go here to the final stage. We didn't do an all-star race podcast. We decided to take the week off, which when I know with the way you started feeling, who knows if we would have been able to do it anyways. But just your thoughts on all-star race. I mean, did you think it was? I think it probably one of the better ones they've had at North Wilkesboro, for being honest.
Yeah, I think it just continues to get better. To be completely honest, the more times they have any form of racing run on that track, and just it just does wonders for that place. And
it had multiple grooves, man. That's what was so impressive.
It did. and I'm in the fan. I know we're going to talk about it here in a second, but I'm in the fan of give that thing a points race. Just give that thing a
Yes.
points race because they put the Martinsville tire on that thing and continue to put some other.
They can keep getting softer. They can keep getting softer.
They can, and I'm telling you, and this car, believe it or not, I can't believe I'm saying it, but this car it can work there, and
Can work there.
it did with the extra grooves, and like I said, continue to run other series on that track too, because like I said, the more they do that, the more they're going to break that track in. And man, I'm telling you, it was good. Like I said, I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. I mean, sure, could it have been better? Of course, but I mean, I think I think it needs to be a points race, and
It was
um, and
It was
Christopher Bell put on a damn clinic on Joey Logano,
yeah.
and I'm glad Joey backtracked a couple days
Yes.
later.
Yeah.
Um, so because he heard all the stuff. But anyway, no, I enjoyed it. I thought it was great, and but I would like to see the All Star race. I know come back to Charlotte personally. I think
Hmm.
with the way the cars run at Charlotte, I think it's deserved. So we get rid of the Roval and run two points over races at Charlotte and then run the All Star race at Charlotte. I think it's deserving of all three, personally.
You
But that's
know,
just
if I could choose, I would replace the Roval with the oval at Charlotte. I want to see that in the playoffs,
yep,
personally. I
yep.
want to see that there. I would replace one of the road courses, like the Mexico City, which I know took a Richmond spot. Um, I would want to see that go to Wilkesboro, and you could still do the All Star race at Charlotte, or somewhere else, and whatever. I have heard on one of the pods that if they're going to rotate this championship race, that the years that if it were to end up at a SMI track, that maybe a NASCAR track does the All Star race. I'm okay with that. I'm all right with that. It'd be really cool to if they could fix these. Before these cars came around, you might could have got an All Star race at Martinsville, which would have been freaking nuts. Um,
Awesome.
Now I don't know so much, but yeah, I'd be fine with that. I thought it was good. The only thing I didn't like was I don't want to say I didn't like the promoter's caution. I didn't have a problem with that in an all-star race just because it's an all-star race. I hated when it came out though because Bell was really starting to run Logano down. Was probably going to pass him on a long run right there, which would have been cool. But it was the hoopla around it. It was Michael Waltrip doing Michael Waltrip things that just I texted you and I was like, that went exactly how I knew it was going to go.
And he
When
dropped the flag.
on purpose, 100% on purpose. They try to play it like he does, but if you go back and watch that clip, he's like looking at the flag, like he's going to drop it before he even drops it. So it's just like I'm like, oh my gosh, man. I mean, and imagine if someone almost did run over it. Imagine if someone would have run over that and messed their car up because he did something stupid. Like, oh my gosh, dude. Well, I was talking to someone. We went out to eat dinner with some people from church, and he was just like, "I don't understand Waltrip. It's like it's just his thing where he just has to act stupid. Like I don't get it. It's like he doesn't think people will realize who he is if he doesn't. I don't know. But buddy, you've won Daytona 2 times. Like we know who you are. Like come on, man. Gosh, but other than that, no, I'm with you. All Star race was pretty good this year, and in the last few years it hasn't been. I thought it was pretty good. Not bad. I'm with you. Wilkesboro's coming about its own for a new pave to come in just the second year after it's been paved to be multiple grooves like that. They found something in that mixture. Now Goodyear, give me a little bit something softer, and we'll go from there. Or take these diffusers off these things would be nice too. So,
Just take those underbodies off for short tracks, and we'll be fine.
yeah. Well, let's talk the last 2 things here. I know this is the one we really want to spend a little bit of time on, but gosh, man, Prime knocked it out of the park last night. I mean, we even got a text from our buddy Jay. Shout out to you, Mr. Souther, and early congratulations on your promotion coming up this weekend, a Master Sergeant. We're proud of you. But he even texted us this morning and was like, man, that broadcast was great. This is from a guy who's just like, I would consider a casual NASCAR fan, who tunes in when we're talking about it. He doesn't go out of his way to watch it. But when he's sitting there saying it was a great broadcast, they hit on it. And God, man, they knocked it out of the park.
Oh man, I mean, from the moment that I cut it on until the moment that I cut it off, and I know y'all all went to bed. Everybody stopped texting me. I was still up late last night watching it, boy. And I remember texting you. I think it was last year. I remember because everybody went to bed. It was on NBC, and I told you I was like, dude, NBC's is so much better than Fox's. Like, because Fox is just like, oh well, race is over. We've showed pictures in Victory Lane. All right, everybody have a good evening, and they go to the.
They
next
did that
day.
with Indy too.
And see, NBC last year didn't do that, dude. Prime. Oh my God,
They were going
dude!
till like 1 o'clock, 1 or 2 o'clock
Dude,
last night,
it's the
weren't they?
same thing. Yes, yes, dude. It is like this. I eventually cut it off because I was like, okay, I can't. Like, I got to go to bed. But dude, I mean, they talked to Ross Chastain, they talked to William Byron. I mean, it's literally a lot like the NFL on Amazon, where like they have the stage with Corey LaJoy for some ungodly reason, um, and like I mean, he's got to earn money somehow. I
Well, I
guess he's
think
got.
here's what I'll say with LaJoy. He does a pretty good job with his
He
podcasting,
does. I'm not
but
hating on him.
he's also available as someone who's driven these new cars and can actually provide insight in the new cars. I'll give him that.
I'm not. He's good at doing it. Like I'm not hating on that. I'm just like, man, like y'all couldn't get
It's
anybody.
random, yeah.
But like having Carl on there, he did fantastic. I loved every minute of that. But anyway, but I mean, talking to Ross, talking to some of his team, talking to Byron, talking to Denny. I
Was
mean, just
Brad on
talking
there?
to
Did they put
everybody.
Brad on there too?
They did put Brad on there. So like
Thought I saw a
talking
clip
to
of that.
so many people, and they just and like what and they were also like doing they were showing recordings from earlier. So like like Trevor Bayne went and did an interview with somebody
Mm,
to do that. Well, then they can't show it live, but then they were like, hey, Trevor Bayne called up with so and so. Let's look into that, and they'll
mm.
show that later too, and then they'll talk about that. It was so in depth about the sport, about what made us fall in love with the sport when we were young, and it was just. That's what people want to see. People want to see in-depth things about the sport and fall in, and get to know these drivers and see them on a different level out of the cars, so that way you can feel like you're part of it. And so,
Yeah,
um,
and
the, the the camera angles were great too. Like, let me
it was
just say
just
that
good. The
some of the
insight
overhead
too, Junior.
shots.
God, Junior just does such a good job too, and even Latard did really good last night. But I'm gonna tell you what I liked it the most, and I know when you liked it the most too. When they had Gordon in the booth, you had Gordon and Junior just going back and forth on the strategy of what was going on in that race. Oh my gosh! I texted you, I was like, "This is perfection." I mean,
Oh,
it was chef's kiss, man. Just
it,
and
it was.
I don't like Gordon. You know how I feel about him. I mean, I always thought he got a bad rep. He was great in the booth, but Gordon's Gordon. Even Junior back in the day when he was racing, couldn't stand him. Love the guy now. But God, man, they were. Oh, it was great. I was just sitting there. I was like, probably looking like an idiot. Probably just sitting there smiling the whole time while I was on there while I'm watching
I
it.
was.
But
My wife asked me. She goes, "Why are you smiling so much?" That's exactly what she told me while I was listening to them, and I was like, I'm listening to Poetry in Motion right now on the
yeah,
TV during the Coke 600." She's like, "It's just a race." I was like, "No, no, no." I was like, "It's Jeff Gordon and Dale Jr." Like,
yes, and they
and
were
they were
so
just,
good. Yeah.
they were, and like, and like, the thing is, I guess with them have been teammates for so long, and then of course Steve, being teammates with them too, of being crew chief for both of those guys,
Yeah, yeah.
the relationship was there, so I think that helped a lot. Of course, like, I don't know, man, I would love it if Amazon would just go and be like, "Hey Jeff, here's a couple million, here's a couple $1 million
Yeah, the
to."
problem is Rick's going to throw some money
I
at
know
him
Rick's
too.
gonna throw some more money in. I know, but anyway, the camera angles were great. I love the overhead shots of the chase down, like at the end of the race with Ross trying
The
to catch.
drone shots, man. The drone
Yeah,
operator. The one at the track and the one in the city
I
just running things
remember.
looking like something out of a Spider-Man movie when they were going down the buildings was awesome, man.
I remember telling you a couple years ago when we were talking about that. What was it, the SRX series with Tony Stewart and them,
Yes, their drone
and they would
shots were
have that
great.
drone shots like as the pace laps or the. And I told you, I said I can't wait until somebody does that in NASCAR, and I think
NBC's
Amazon.
dabbled in it a little bit, but
Yeah,
Amazon's taking it on. Yep.
yeah. So, um, like I said, everything was just great. The cameras were great too. Sometimes I feel like when you're watching it on Fox, sometimes I feel like the quality wasn't as good. But like everything, and maybe that's just my TV for people out there. But I
I
mean,
don't
I
know if
felt
it
like
was, Cody. I had it. I hooked the projector up in the den last night. Had it going on the wall. It was crisp, dude. It was
it,
crisp.
it was great. I mean, it was fantastic, and I think you know, it just everything about it was pristine, and
Yeah.
it felt like I said once again, it felt like the network actually cared. It felt
Mm-hmm.
like they said, hey, I can't remember how many races they're carrying. It's at six or eight
Six.
or something.
Six.
So they've said, look, we've got six races. We gonna make it feel like we want these six races. And even the production stuff beforehand with the videos of like all the Coke 600 heights, with all of the throwback, Ben in our text thread, shout out Ben, he brought it up with all the throwback stuff. Like they threw back to Gordon's 94, his first win at the Coke 600. They threw it back to, some of the Dale Earnhardt Coke 600 wins. I just, it just all felt right. It just
Yeah.
felt like at home because
Yeah.
that's what we grew up watching. Because you felt, like I said, you felt like the network actually gave a shit.
It felt
Excuse my
like it was
language, but
number one on their list. Like you're
yeah,
right. And and I saw, gosh, too many times. I mean, I know Facebook comments are Facebook comments, but gosh, man, the old people that get on there and they're just like, no prime, no NASCAR. I'm not doing that. Listen, come on, man, get off your rocker and do it. Like most of y'all got the money to be able to do that anyway, so cut it out. Like it's good, but it was worth it. I mean, they got a 30-day trial too. You're going to get most of the 6 races doing a 30-day free trial anyways. So come on. It was great. I'm already excited for next week when they go to Nashville. Another night race too. Should be really good. Nashville's delivered to, which is going to segue perfect into our next segment here. But kudos to Prime. Keep it up. The bar was low, but you surpassed it majorly, and you've set it even higher now for TNT and NBC for the rest of the year. And look, it's 2025, man. Even at times I can be a little old school, and I'm like, they streaming this, that, and the other, but it's working. It works. Netflix has done well with it. Obviously, Amazon's done good with the NFL. And all these other networks who are carrying it on cable are streaming it on their apps and stuff. Anyways, people are going to get it if they want to watch it. And as people start saying how good it was, people are going to tune in. They're going to.
here's the other thing too to think about. So Amazon also can market to a much younger fan base, and we talked about this before with Fox and NASCAR in general. Of how can they advertise to the younger fan base? I told you about Mike Jordan being on Kevin Hart's podcast and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But think about it. So you talked about people opening up Amazon Prime or whatever. Well, Amazon does a great job of advertising that because when you open up Amazon Prime Video,
it's right.
the
Even if you
first
just
thing?
open up Amazon.com, even
It
just
was
on the
there.
website.
It was
Boom.
yes, it was there. It was right there on Amazon.com because I mean, my wife's sitting there shopping on Amazon. And she's like, "Why is this Coke 600 thing on here?" And I'm like, and I'm opening up Amazon on my phone or I'm opening up, not just the shopping app, but video. But they do the same thing for football too. Is during the season, you open up on Thursday nights, it's like bang. And also too, I noticed on my Roku, just on the pause waiting menu, um, sometimes you'll see them throw like watch now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It had it
Was
up
it
there.
there? Oh, that's awesome.
Yes. And I
That's
was
awesome.
like, okay. I was like, this is great. So,
Yeah.
shout out to Amazon for that too, because I told you last night after it was over, I told you, I said, I don't care what amount it costs. Amazon's got it. Throw a bag at NASCAR and say, give them all to me.
Give them to me. The problem is, for whatever reason, NASCAR likes to bounce it around through multiple providers. They've always done that. I don't understand it.
Probably because they can get more money for it overall.
And I don't know how this is a new contract because last year is when it up. But if I'm Amazon, I might throw in some money and be like, hey, let me buy out Fox. Please do it, Amazon. Jeff, if you're listening, buddy.
Yeah.
Jeff, I know you got it. I know you got it, man. Write that check, please. Anyway, so let's talk about
you can send Katy Perry to the moon, to space. you can buy NASCAR rights.
You can send Fox off in NASCARs. Oh man, well let's segue in. We're almost at an hour here, so let's talk Nashville. Last year Nashville was a really good race until it got funky there at the end, and of course Nashville and the Hal Logano still to this day you can't convince me that there wasn't something illegal going on there. He had way more gas than anyone else in the whole field, but that's how he got into the playoffs. Nashville's been a really good race in the next gen. Again, a track that gives you the opportunity for multiple grooves. I'm glad they're running it late at night. I think the first time they ever did it was during the day in Nashville. And I always thought it would be fun to go down there and go that race until I realized that track doesn't let you bring in coolers. Like the only one on the circuit. Yeah, it does not let you bring in coolers. And the first time they did it was like 2:00 this time of year in Nashville. Yeah, it went about as good as you can imagine, which is why they've moved it to the evening now. So my initial thoughts, I'm excited. I mean, it's been a solid race. NASCAR's hitting some really good tracks to get their momentum back that they lost. You've got Charlotte, Nashville. I'm pretty sure Michigan's in here. No, I'm missing some without looking at the schedule. There's some good ones that are coming up that should salvage what they lost over the last few weeks with this car. Your thoughts on Nashville? I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, no, same. I've always enjoyed Nashville's from when they switched to the night race. I think it's funny how some of these tracks just run better when it's a nighttime race. Like,
Hmm.
like sometimes Charlotte in the middle of the day always runs pretty good, but it's something about it running at night. It just tends to run a little bit better. Same with Nashville. Same with like, I mean, when we've run at Kansas, but Kansas has always been pretty good. But like even still, like it's been a little more electric at night. And I don't know, maybe that's just the aura of night races.
No, I
Um,
don't think you're wrong. The night
but
races in Kansas have delivered.
Yeah, I just think I don't know. I think it just has to do with the setups and the way the cars, especially if they start kind of in the day with the sun and then go to
It's
night.
hot, it's
The
slick,
way
and
this,
then it gets
yeah,
grippy.
it gets cool and then it gets grippy, and your setups are completely different from one car to the next, and
Hmm.
so no, I'm excited. I think it's going to put on a good show. Hopefully, we don't, like you said. I was going to touch on that. Hopefully, we don't have another fluke of gas mileage and somehow Joey Logano has a spare small tank attached to that car somewhere. Um,
Well, look, we
now
can blame Carson. We can blame Carson Hocevar for that because of his antics last year, running 28th. Decided he wanted to wreck someone with less than 5 laps to go, and Denny and Ross were, Denny was going to run with it. Ross was going to finish second. The race was decided. It was over. I mean, it may have been less than 3 laps, if I'm not mistaken. And
Yeah, it was a
Hocevar
great white
decides to
checker.
just decides to wreck someone for no darn reason, and that eventually leads to Logano winning his third championship. Thanks a lot, Carson. But anyways,
That's what you.
I'm
That's,
looking
that's
forward
why
to
your.
it.
That's why your engine blew up. Anyway,
Yeah, I
no.
need I need some fantasy momentum next week. I don't know who I can sit here and say that I like because I have been. Let's really quick. My fantasy struggles. For those who don't know, as we entered Kansas, Adam was sitting second in this new league that we've entered that has a little money involved with it. I was sitting second, was out of first by like 60 points. I was sitting good. My thing is I want to be within. I usually try to like to be with under 100, preferably under 80 going into the playoffs. I was where I needed to be. Since Kansas, I hadn't looked at it today. I don't want to look at it today because I know how bad it is. But after Kansas, I went down from second to seventh, and I'm like 180 points out of first. Probably worse after last night because two of my drivers, 3 of the 6 that I picked, of course, one goes in the garage, didn't even finish the dang race. The one who was going to bring me a lot of points, Gasman, couldn't even fill his tank up all the way. Barry at least ended up salvaging something, but it was terrible. It was pathetic. I need fantasy this week. I got to do my homework this week, man. I need like 4 races in a row to just swing it the right way.
Yeah,
You've probably passed me at this point. There's no telling. I'm probably gonna be like 15th or
I don't know
16th after these
because
last 2.
when you've had bad weeks, I've had bad weeks. So
Oh, okay.
and what's funny is I had climbed from like the 20th to 8th, and in
Mm-hmm.
like 3 weeks, and I think eighth or seventh was about as high as I got, and I haven't looked this week to see. Where you are, where I am,
I
or
don't want to
Brandon,
look at it.
where
I'll
Brandon
look at it
is.
tomorrow at some point. I might peak tonight, but
I don't
I
know.
just don't want to
I
see it.
do. I do. Talking about favorites going into this race, I think the Toyotas will show out pretty good. I expect them to be quick. I don't know. I got a weird feeling about a 23-11 win right now because they just haven't. They really haven't been there yet. So I feel like this could be a really good opportunity for a Reddick, a Bubba, sort of feel to, especially Reddick. Reddick ran really good last night, and just,
Until he
but then it
didn't.
was like
But
until he did. But then like it's like when he would get up there and then he would show some speed, and then it would just be like long run it just would go away. And
yeah.
so I feel like those guys are really starting to feel the pressure a little bit of like we got to get a win.
Mm-hmm.
Bubba's really fallen off from from those top fives earlier in the year, and
And
stuff like that.
the
So
good thing with Bubba is he had a little room to spare,
he
points
did,
wise.
but it's
But you can't have 2 or 3 weeks like what you had yesterday.
no, and so I think they're starting to feel a little bit of pressure. But I don't know, just something about it just says that they're due. And then also too, and once again, I'm going to bring him up this week just because he continues to find ways to show up when I feel like he doesn't show up. Like as a fan personally, I feel like I'm like, oh wow, another crappy week. But then I look at the standings at the end of the race, I'm like, how'd you get there? Chase Elliott, like for
Mm-hmm.
some reason next week I feel like could be a good race for him. They ran up in the top 5 for a little bit last night. I think they ended up finishing top 10 last night.
Which is what
Um,
he's done all year. He's just been
yeah,
a
I
top
mean,
10 car. Yeah.
yeah. So I'm like, I'm really wanting to see them take the next step. Um, And I think they're going to start feeling the pressure too. I mean, they're locked. They're probably locked in the playoffs unless they string
Yeah.
a couple bad weeks together. Um, but they need to win. I mean, that crew and that team is good enough, and that driver's good enough. They need wins. It's not about
Yep.
just getting to the playoffs.
Yep.
They need wins, and so.
Yep.
And I don't know how they feel about seeing Kyle and Willie B run that well, and they're not. So
Yeah, I'll say who I like next week. I mean, the 5 that won and the 11 have kind of been the cream of the crop when it comes to Nashville until someone shows me otherwise. I still think they'll be pretty solid, but the 5 and the 11 have been the cream of the crop pretty much in the 24 all year. So, it is what it is. So, anyways, man, appreciate everyone tuning in. Give us a like, give us a subscribe if you haven't. Cody, you made it through. You did an hour tonight, man. You were talking about you wasn't sure if you'd be able to talk at all. Now you're not gonna be able to talk the rest of the night. You're welcome. But hey, buddy, as always, yeah, appreciate you pushing through for it, and we'll catch you guys after Nashville. We'll recap that one.